What's up, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. And today we are talking more Bloodline. Again, we are at the end of 2025, and we didn't expect to be talking about the Bloodline probably this prominently, this far into the story and into the tenure of everything that's been going on with Jay, Jimmy, and now Roman getting involved. Of course, if you've been living under a rock, then the very end of Monday Night Raw saw the return of the TC1, or the original OTC, or whatever you want to call him nowadays. Roman Reigns came back with a vengeance and a steel chair in hand to help out his brethren in the Usos against the Vision. But that wasn't all. It was also the very end of the show where Roman and Jay are going backwards and forwards saying, this is exactly what we're talking about. This is exactly what we need to do. We're going to take over again, yada, yada, yada. Old OG Bloodline talk very much going on between those two men. And of course, there's a very pensive looking Jimmy in the background thinking, oh no, I don't like where this is going. Are we heading down a very similar, very historical route? And on that note, that's very much what I want to discuss today, Bragster, is what this means, what we think it might mean, and where do we see it going from here. So, to start things off, Bragster,
Yes.
what were your thoughts on sort of the end of Monday Night Raw and sort of the aftermath of all that happened there? What are your thoughts on that segment as a whole?
I love it. I think it's brilliant. I think this is exactly what was necessary. I think what you've got is you've got old Roman Reigns in the babyface body coming through. And yes, he's getting cheered. And yes, he's against the bad guys. So he's building his bloodline against the bad guys. So that's what makes him a good guy. But I love it because you've still got the venom that's in him, this like leader, the need to take over and build an empire. But he's then setting it up, it feels like, for Jay. You know, Jay, who has been successful in his own right. Roman has even acknowledged that, which is very nice, which is just great character work for Roman because it shows Roman's progression. But now this is showing Jay's progression. Yes, okay, it risks losing the entrance. It risks losing what makes Jey Uso 2025 Jey Uso, 2025 Jey Uso. We risk losing that. However, for his character, it's the perfect thing that's needed. He needs this venom in him. There's a like where you feel, oh, there's a reason you lost your title. You forgot to care about only yourself, which is kind of true because he helped out Cody, got hurt, lost title. That's literally what happened. The storyline has laid itself out and it works perfectly. There's no plot holes. There's no, like, everything works. It all works. It's brilliant. I think there's something really special they're cooking up here. And even if it's just a short-term thing rather than an extremely long-term thing, I feel like this is kind of building towards just War Games. War Games plus a couple of extras, aka probably CM Punk and John Cena. I could even see a scenario where they run back what happened with Dakota Kai all those years ago, and Jimmy isn't in the team. And there's a little bit of jealousy going on, and maybe an attack. I wouldn't mind them running it back. I really wouldn't. I think it'd be a really good story of the jealousy within the Usos, which we haven't really seen. You know, okay, yes, they feuded, but it wasn't over jealousy. It wasn't over the fact that, you know, okay, yeah, Jay's become the favorite. Last time they feuded, it was because, well, Jay was going against the Bloodline, to which Jimmy was in it, and the way too confusing. But ultimately, this would be over jealousy, over the favoritism of Roman Reigns. That would be such a fascinating element to go on. I love everything about this because it's flipped. Yes, okay, it's a continuation of Bloodline story, but it's a complete flip on what's been going on before.
Yeah, 100%. My initial thoughts, obviously, to that segment were, okay, that's probably how we're going to start piecing together the team for War Games. I get the feeling it's going to be Jimmy, Jay, and Roman in there, and probably Sammy. I would
Yeah.
say. I think that kind of makes sense. Maybe Cody's in there as well because of the history, obviously, that everyone involved has with him. And everyone sort of, apart from maybe Roman being on the same page as Cody, I can see that being another layer or another feather in the story where it's like everyone's on board with Cody being there, but then does Roman get in Jay's ear a little bit, and then does
Mm,
that create some friction? And then helping people out being part of the story, is that how War Games ends? And is that how maybe Division get the win because Jay refuses to help maybe Jimmy or Cody
mm,
or, or maybe Sammy? Maybe that's how that maybe builds from there.
yeah.
Maybe that's a feud we see further on down the line and get set up. But, I think this is a very, as long as this is going to be a like even a semi-long story that we're going with, and we go into this maybe with into the Rumble and Mania season, I'm very interested to see where it
Mm.
goes next. I don't want it to be a thing of we get to War Games and they've all been kissed and made up and everyone's okay and then they get the win and sends everyone
Yeah.
happy. I want this, not necessarily, it doesn't need to end in Jay becoming an ultra bad guy. It doesn't need to even being head of the bloodline. I think that would be a cool thing and it would be cool to see. But I just want there to be a bit of long-term storytelling with this where maybe the War Games isn't the end of it and it's
Mm.
just chapter one. And as things progress, we start to see more and more layers to it. I certainly like the dynamic of Roman's going back to maybe his old ways and he's showing Jade this is what you need to do. If you want all these things, you
Yeah.
have to become someone maybe you don't like and maybe other people aren't going to like.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the story we have to tell here. I think that the Jimmy not going along with it is certainly an interesting aspect when obviously they've been the Usos themselves have been separated for so long that everyone felt like, oh, they're coming back together. And maybe that isn't going to be as peachy as we expect it to be.
Mm.
And I think that's probably going to be probably one of, if not the coolest aspect to the story is
Mm.
how does that play out between them two? Is there a moment where Jay realizes, no, he has to go his own way? Not necessarily going the Roman way, but has to do it his own way, but not all the way like he was doing, helping everyone out that he can, but has to find that middle ground where he
Yeah.
can't be full tribal chief Roman, but he also can't go full Yeetmeister Jey Uso like he was doing when he beat Gunther. But I think that's the sort of intrigue to me is and that's always the best storylines, especially with the Bloodline,
Yeah.
is that there are a number of different ways it could go.
Yeah.
And I think that we all think it'll go one way, but the beauty of the Bloodline storyline is it always ends up going another way, which ends up being 10 times better. And
Yeah.
they haven't faltered with it yet. And despite some of the misgivings on Triple H's booking over the past year, I still have faith that with this, they're going to make the absolute most out of it, and it will be 100% top level box office for WWE, and probably end up being the main storyline, if not the best storyline going
Yeah.
into Rumble and Mania next year, whatever that looks like. What are your thoughts on that, Bragster?
I agree. I think there's something really exciting about this that just leads just so nicely to wrestling and Mania season. You know, you've got War Games, which people underestimate War Games for just being a weapons fest or just like when, quite frankly, some of the best stories we have had over the past God knows how many years in WWE, both on the main roster and in NXT, have been told through War Games. And it's consistently done that. And that's what I've loved so much about War Games this entire time. That then leads into the Rumble, which leads then into Mania. I think that, there are so many aspects they can go with where you could end up with Roman versus Jay for the Ulafala. That could be where it goes. You could end up with Jimmy versus Jay again. You could end up with the Usos going after the titles because they have made up and everything's okay. You could end up with the Usos being back together, but with a little darker tone, with Roman going back back to the main title because he wants to build the bloodline again and build that dominance again. There are layers upon layers of loads of different ways they can go around that is so exciting. You know, they could go down the route of does Jay turn on Jimmy? Does Jimmy turn on Jay? What goes on here? And if Jimmy turns on Jay, is that Jay's fault or is that Jimmy's fault?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, who's in the wrong, who's in the right? And that's a lot of what this Bloodline story is. And I think they're towing the line even better than possibly they were before because they are currently baby faces.
Mm-hmm.
They're currently the good guys. So the good guys are feuding with each other over who is less bad.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's the simplest way you can put it. And don't get me wrong, that is a very dumbed down version of what's going on. But ultimately, that is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
You've got this incredibly well, like, sewed in story into what's going on, where you could easily end up at War Games with only Roman in War Games.
Mm-hmm.
You could easily end up with Roman and Jay, or you could end up with, as you said, with all of the Bloodline there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just going to be Roman and Jay. I think that's where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's going to be an element where they keep saying you have to look out for yourself. You have to look out for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there'll be a moment where they're obviously going against the Vision. I still think there might be a new member of the Vision coming through soon to make it 5. I think that might come to be possibly in Perth, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't surprise me if it's Ethan Page, to be honest, because there's a chance he loses that title very soon. But I think that there's the possibility of a new member getting announced. Then they can have Brock added. Yes, I think Brock's going to be in War Games.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be a little sweetened bit of the WWE part of the deal of, yes, we've brought you back, but you've got to do War Games.
Mm-hmm.
And he'll just be last in and destroy everyone, and we all know how it will go. But I think that then it will be a matter of we've got all of these people, and maybe there's an opportunity of, okay, we've got Punk, we've got Roman, we've got Jay, maybe we have Cody, although I think he might be left out of it to go into another direction, maybe Randy Orton. But I think there'll be a moment where we've got so many people, we need one more. Jimmy's the obvious choice. And then with Brock added, there's this moment of, what if we can get Cena? And there is a choice between his brother or who's clearly the better wrestler.
Yeah.
And I think then they will then, with this whole you've got to look out for yourself, they'll then choose Cena. And that's then what leads to the tension. Whether that is played out at Survivor Series or post-Survivor Series, I do not know. But I think that would be such an interesting avenue for them to go down, where they actively choose not to take Jimmy to war because he's not good enough. And they're actively telling their family member, you're not good enough. Again, which is very much what Roman did. Roman, as tribal chief, consistently told people they weren't good enough, consistently told people they weren't doing the right thing, over and over again, whether that be the Usos, whether that be Sami Zayn, who did catch a brunt of it. Very often he would belittle and go, you are not good enough. Having Jay do that to Jimmy would just, I think, sew all of this even closer together, of this Jay's descent into becoming the tribal chief. And then you can either pull him back or don't. Let him go on this run, see what the crowd reactions are like, or see where the storyline takes you. But I think there's a really interesting element they can tell just by having Jay exclude Jimmy from War Games.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing is, with the Bloodline, there's so many layers to it. There's so much history there that you can draw on. Obviously, the Usos on their own have their own history, being brothers. The tag probably are going to go down as the greatest tag team champions we've ever seen, and quite rightly so. There's so much you can just do from that alone. And again, the idea of there being a split there, not necessarily being a full turn on each other, but
Yeah.
just there being some sort of choice that has to be made between the pair of them is certainly an intriguing one. And it may be not pulling off. Maybe Jimmy not being there to have Jay's back is what causes Jay to lose. And Jay's still like figuring it out and trying to work out why is this not gone right. And Jimmy's just like,
Yeah.
I don't need to tell you. The answer is right in front of you. But then also going into what you're saying on the aftermath, I like the idea of Roman's like, if you want to be tribal chief, you have to take this from me, and I'm not going to let you have it willingly. We have to have the tribal combat or whatever it is over the Ulafala, and I think that's an interesting story to tell. I'd be intrigued to see if they do that so soon into it, because I do think there is going to be a Roman Seth story to tell at some point in the near future. So maybe that's something that comes later down the line. Whether it's Jay or someone else, we'll have to wait and see. But I do certainly think there is a lot of story to come. And I hope that it is a case of it isn't just for War Games. It is going to be maybe the next part of the sort of Bloodline anthology, if you want to call it that. Like, this is not maybe Roman's section. This is the Jay section of the Bloodline that we're seeing now, and him taking over, or him going on his own journey and seeing what comes out the other side is certainly going to be very intriguing. But yeah, I think War Games is certainly going to have a lot to it now, more than I maybe anticipated, because obviously we're only 6 weeks out really from War Games, and it's only shortly after that when Cena's retirement is. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see what the teams look like, especially on the Vision side, because I do think there may be another person, like you say. I think there may be someone else coming, and then probably Brock will probably be the fifth guy, unless they go full hog and just put Drew in there, which I wouldn't be against, because it's Drew. You know, Drew can do anything. But it would certainly be interesting to see what they do. The Cody aspect to it as well is something that interests me, because the history of him and the Bloodline working together again is something you can play off of. We had that promo the other week where Cody was trying to sort of big up Jay, make him feel better, and Jay's just sort of not paying attention to a single word and staring at the belt and just thinking, I need that. I need the shiny. And I think there's a lot of stuff you can pay off that, and maybe Cody is the sacrificial lamb to get Jay to that point. And it would be certainly an interesting story to tell. We'll have to wait and see, of course. Now, with that being said, War Games is a short while away. Let us know down in the comments, who would you like to see be in the War Games lineups, good and bad, in terms of the 5 or 4v4 or 5v5, however they want to do it. And yeah, what do you think of this Bloodline story? Do you think we're going to see a longer term storytelling that we haven't really seen for a little while on WWE programming? And certainly we would welcome back with open arms, I think, especially week to week. Let us know what you think down in the comments. Also, if you want to see more wrestling content, hit the subscribe button. And that will be it for today, folks. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you soon for more wrestling goodness.